Hey, this is Luke with an Android Guys podcast. I'm here with Scott.
Hi, Luke.
How are you?
Man, I can't complain.
All right.
No.
Wouldn't do any good if you did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard that
Stop
one.
it.
I know. So you have a review for us. You have a pretty interesting device. When we see these devices come into the office, they're always interesting because they look cool.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that's like, oh, this I know who this is for.
Am I this person?
Right.
I have to ask myself that. The more I see this type of thing come into the office, the more time I spend with them,
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask myself, am I that guy?
Yeah. So, without too much dangling of the carrot, we're talking about a phone.
Yep.
We're talking about the newest model from REDMAGIC.
Yeah, this is the REDMAGIC 7S Pro.
And this is, for lack of better terminology, a gaming phone.
Yeah, I mean, and they really lean into that.
Yeah.
That is kind of this Nubia line of the REDMAGIC is that's their jam.
Yeah.
That's what they do. So earlier this year, they had the REDMAGIC 7
Mm-hmm.
and then had the 7 Pro, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the 7S Pro.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a step up from that phone.
Yeah.
By all outward appearances,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same.
Yeah.
But what it has inside is a little bit different.
Okay.
And it's kind of refreshed. I will say this. I see what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
I understand what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was worth doing so quickly on the heels of the original.
Right.
Is it almost kind of like maybe if you could have waited a few more months to spread that out?
Sure.
So, Google will put out the Pixel series,
Mm-hmm.
and then about 6 to 8 months later, they'll put out the A version.
Sure.
Which is kind of like that, hey, here's all the stuff that everybody loves in the main phone with some of the things taken away that you probably won't notice anyways.
Right.
The refresh rate, the wireless charging,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that people go, oh, I don't care about that anyways.
Yeah.
Here, what they did is they moved the 7 and they bumped it up across the board.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say across the board, across a few boards.
Uh-huh.
To kind of just give it a little bit more, hey, as the end of the year winds down, here's something to consider.
Okay.
Here's where we are capable, what we are capable of creating.
Mm.
So this is ridiculous.
Okay.
Right? So let me tell you, it's the Snapdragon 8 Plus
Yeah.
Gen 1, where the previous one was the Snapdragon 8.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be 100% transparent. I don't run the benchmark tests.
Sure.
I don't do these, what are the scores? How many minutes, hour screen time? What is the lag refresh rates?
Yeah.
Frames per second? What drops? Like, there are people who are amazing at that.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Sure.
That's not us. That's not the kind of review that we write
Mm-hmm.
or the way we look at these devices.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your thing, I'm happy to suggest a couple places for that.
Sure.
What I look at is, how does this handle? How does it feel?
Right.
We don't do a ton of gaming phones, and then there aren't a ton of them out there. But when I get them, I can, let me think how. Okay, so I think even in the old 7 Pro, my review, I even said, I don't have a sports car, but I can appreciate a sports car.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't play gaming, high-end games on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
But I can appreciate devices that, I can appreciate ones that can handle these things.
Yeah.
And understand what makes some of them so special.
Mm-hmm.
Refresh rate, touch sampling rate, response times on things. The everything is
A dedicated gaming mode.
yeah,
right. Certain things that are just like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
This dials up everything and then turns off these other things in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get all that and I appreciate all that. I start to look at these phones as what's the whole picture?
Sure.
So that kind of colors my impression of the experience, but I try to remove that way of thinking and just say, okay, how does this handle as a gaming phone?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, this thing has 18 gigabytes of memory.
That's insane.
And it's LPDDR5. It's
Yeah.
fast memory. It's
That's more memory than a basic laptop.
right.
Like
And,
not Chromebook, laptop.
yeah. And, this processor is stupid fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, the 8 Plus has performed considerably better than the 8
Yeah.
on benchmarks. And I know that some of the things and the hangups that people had with that 8 are addressed in the 8 Plus.
Mm-hmm.
This thing has a gorgeous screen.
Mm-hmm.
It has a really cool design.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a gaming phone. It looks like a gaming phone. When you watch Twitch videos, YouTube videos, and you watch people that you follow who play games, there's a certain aesthetic, a certain vibe, a certain look.
Yeah.
This has that.
Yeah.
There are different colors that you can get it in. I believe, let me see if I have the names. I think there's Mercury, then there's Obsidian maybe, and then Supernova. Let me see if I got those right. Yep. So, and you can get it in storage capacities of 512 gigabytes with either 12 gig of RAM or 18 gig of RAM.
Yeah.
So it's super capable. Now, couple things as a whole phone.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel balanced.
Okay.
The camera's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The software is a little clunky to me.
Ah.
But I use a lot of phones.
Yeah.
I review a lot of phones.
Yep.
And I have a certain affinity towards a clean Android build.
Sure.
That's stock stuff, the things that come with Pixel phones. So I have that. However, when you switch over to game mode, or if you're a gamer, you're not using the phone for taking pictures.
Yeah, you don't care.
You don't care about that. You bought this thing to play games.
Yeah.
So you look at things like, does it have Wi-Fi 6? Does it have 5G support? Am I able to play this thing and get the kills and the frags that I need to? It's really weird for me to review these phones because I have to install games that I don't normally play.
Sure.
And then I look at them and think, wow, maybe I should be doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really love to play games on phones because I don't care for the flat touch screen. I like the tactile buttons. Sure. There are some haptic buttons on the shoulders that you can play. They respond very well. This phone, when you play your games, some of the things that you run into is they tend to get hot. This thing has a fan built into it that kicks on. It's 20,000 RPM.
Yeah.
It's quiet. Well, I should say relatively quiet. Doesn't distract from any of the games. And then there's an LED light that goes with it that just looks kind of cool when you have it on there. Now, you don't see it when you're playing, but people around you will.
Yeah.
It just has this kind of like, if you see somebody with it, you can tell there's a lot it says about that person.
Sure.
Without having to say anything.
Sure.
Have a conversation with them to find out, oh, what do you do with your phone?
Yeah.
It's
and it's just looking at the back of it, regardless of the RGB light or anything like that, it is an interesting looking phone.
Yeah.
It's not, and interesting, that's not a chosen word as to be like, it's kind of gross, but it's noticeable. Like, it has a lot of things to look at on the back.
Yeah.
Like, it's intricate and it looks nice. I mean, there's the button on the side it has a texture to it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of really well thought out design in this phone that is noticeable.
So when I go to review phones, I will typically load my main email account and then some of the apps that I have to have on a day-to-day.
Sure.
And then after a time, if it's, I'll start to add another account and maybe some other apps, depending on how long I spend with it. I rarely will install games on review units because I don't know if the game it'll sync my account.
Sure.
Or I don't know if I'm going to carry this with me all the time. But for something like this, it's like, no, let's put this thing to the test.
Right.
So I started installing some of these like first person shooters and even some of the casual games, but I have in this kind of kind of matches what I said where I don't do the benchmarks and stuff.
Yeah.
This makes sense. I haven't seen anything on this that says, man, this thing almost had it.
Yeah.
It just
yeah.
stutters a little bit. I can't throw enough at this phone
Mm-hmm.
to make it
lag.
Something.
Yeah.
I can't make it stutter,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I've installed different things on it. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that's when you look at the hardware on there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the software is a little different story. So when I'm on there, I look at it, I'm like, it's not as clean as I would like.
Right.
There's some widgets and stuff pre-installed that really kind of center around gaming.
Yeah.
You're going to see the, you know, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't knock them for it. It's consistent from the other ones that I've seen from them. So it isn't like each series is a big departure.
Right.
Their cooling system, they've got, I think it's on Ice 10, if I have the name of it right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a multi-layered thing to keep this thing cool.
Yeah.
There's a vapor chamber, high thermal conductivity, copper foil, thermal gel. And it's designed like this new system. It's designed to keep the temperature about 3 degrees Celsius cooler than the last generation.
Yeah.
So you're really starting to get into
the stuff you're saying sounds like you're building a PC.
Yeah, you're building a gaming computer, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing is they're building a gaming phone by putting all these things in there. There's a couple of vents to keep it cool. Like you feel the air blowing out of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all like when you're playing a game and your phone starts getting warm, heat your enemy, man.
Yeah.
Like you're going to run into performance problems. With that, you don't have wireless charging.
Okay.
Because of the way the case is.
Mm-hmm.
You also don't have water resistance because of the vents.
Sure.
So if you're looking at like, hey, how does this stack up as a phone?
Right.
Those are some of your trade-offs.
Sure.
Again, and that's where that like how balanced of a thing is this?
Right.
For some people, that's may or may not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Battery on this thing, it has a 5,000 milliamp battery.
Okay.
65 watt fast charging. I think there's like a dual cell battery. So it'll charge them up super quick.
Yeah.
Takes a little over 5 minutes to get from 0 to 25 on battery.
Wow.
And then you're looking at maybe 10 minutes to hit about halfway mark.
Okay.
So it's very generous.
Yeah.
Very quick. I don't know if this is a personal preference, but I know like with USB-C, I've seen phones that have USB on the side as well. So when you're playing the games,
you can hold it upright.
You can charge it and hold it up, side, like
a controller almost.
Right. So I don't know how important that is.
Yeah.
But for some people that may be a deal breaker. Other than that though, I mean, you get down to the bottom line for the price. This is $899 at the top end.
$899 at the top end.
Yeah.
That's for those specs with that much RAM and storage. That's actually pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Compared to other flagships we've seen.
Yeah, like if you talk about, hey, how does this thing fare on paper?
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like? You're gonna get some. I mean, you got a stupid high refresh rate on this touch sampling rate. Actually, interestingly enough, I believe this has a slightly lower refresh rate than the one on the 7 Pro.
Okay.
But I think it's still 120 on this one, if I'm not mistaken. But that's where I was saying when you compare that, you have 2 other models to choose from.
Right.
They're kind of close. Yeah, 120 hertz refresh. But it's a 960 touch sampling rate.
Wow.
And then, 1080 by 2400 pixels. 600 nits brightness. So pictures, dude, this thing, games look amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that type of gaming I go back to. Well, when I'm done with this thing, I may be done with gaming until I review my next gaming phone.
Sure.
But when I look at overall performance of opening apps and multitasking and things like that, this is not so unbalanced,
right?
That I don't like the rest of the phone,
right? So if obviously this is a gaming phone, person that the target market for this is somebody that wants to play games.
Yeah.
But if you are a casual gamer and you want a phone, and with that RAM and that processor speed, this is going to be great at multitasking.
Yeah, that's where I go back to, how important is wireless charging to you?
Mm-hmm.
How important is water resistance to you?
Mm-hmm.
If a couple of those things don't really matter, you're future proofing yourself for this.
Right.
Why spend that $1,200 on some of these high end flagship phones?
Right.
For something that you care more about? Will I be able to play my games 2 years from now, 3 years from now? You're
Right.
spending less money and getting a more capable device.
Right.
With or without some of the features that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely recommend this one.
Yeah.
I ended up scoring it on a number of different things, but my average came out to a 4.2, which is, I want to say, almost identical to the 7
Yeah.
Pro. Again, they're close enough to each other that, if you look at their website and figure out like, well, what's the difference in these?
Mm-hmm.
That extra memory, the newer processor, the newer cooling system.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that kind of separate it from the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it hasn't been that long since the other generation came out that it might even make it even more worth it to you to say, well, for what, like $600?
Yeah.
Go with this one.
Yeah.
Because again, these guys are shooting so much further down the road than what you actually need from a phone.
Yeah.
That, I hate to speak hyperbolic and say you'll never need more than this.
Yeah.
But man, I wonder what we're doing with our phones when we need more than this.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. REDMAGIC has, these are cool phones. These are great phones.
Yeah.
Strong. And if you're into gaming, there are very few options, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is this is boss level stuff.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, no problem. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast.
Thanks for listening.
We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, feedback, concerns, comments, anything, shoot us an email at podcast@AndroidGuys.com. We'd love to hear from you one way or the other. Luke, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Luke Gaul, Gaul.
And I'm on Instagram at Scott Webster and Twitter as SWebster77. Until next time, thanks for listening.
See ya.